Eileen, this is Dan, just checking in again. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Eileen, this is Mark. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Mark. Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
There you go.
Who else is on the? Oh no, there's Nicholas. Okay,
Okay.
we're,
Sweet, we're good.
yeah. Okay, well, it's 6:01 then. All right, I'm going to call to order the planning commission meeting for April 9th, 2026. Dan has asked me to chair because although he is here, I think he does not have video. So we will go on to roll call. Eileen, can you do roll call?
Yeah.
Here.
Matt Berry,
Here.
Red Brown. Red Brown. Daniel Dunn,
Yeah.
Yep, here.
Nicholas Gray,
Present.
Jim Henson,
Here.
Selena Noblock,
Here.
Dominic Mosseri,
Here.
and Scott Van Dalen is absent.
Okay, we'll move on to the flag salute. We'll wait till we get the flag up online as well. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is department update. Clark?
Hi, commissioners. Apologies, I'm not there. My wife is out of town this week, so I am home with the animals. Chickens, a dog, and cat. Hopefully they behave themselves. Couple things, just to fill you in on council. This week, council was discussing chapter 10 and the environment chapter, and chapter 8, natural resources, and chapter 9, parks and recreation. They finished parks and rec, held a few items in chapter 8 until we talk about UGA expansions and AgD designation issues on April 28th. And next week is a regular council meeting. So we'll have committee of the whole in the afternoon, just a couple of hours to hopefully finish up on chapter 10 environment and some trailing issues on the climate element, chapter 12, as well as the appendices. They haven't gotten to the appendices yet, so that's also on the agenda. So they've updated the schedule a little bit for their review of the comp plan. Next week, as I said, on the 14th, chapter 10, chapter 12, and the appendices. Then the next meeting will be on April 28th, talk about chapter 2, chapter 8. They've added another special committee of the whole meeting on April 5th for follow-up discussions, then a committee of the whole on April 12th. And council's goal is to introduce the ordinance and all the chapters on April 26th, and then hold final public hearing and take action on the whole kit and caboodle on June 9th. So hopefully that's the schedule as it looks right now, and hopefully council will be able to stick to it. They are making a lot of proposed changes to policies as we go along. So and then staff and other departments as well are commenting as it pertains, whether it's public works or health or PDS or the executive's office on different issues. So that process continues. Tonight's the housing concurrent.
Clark, we got 2 questions.
Yep.
Jim's got one first.
I think a bunch of the dates you gave us as April are actually May dates because they seem to be subsequent to things that have to happen first in April. So could you run through those dates again?
Yeah, so next week, Jim, is the 14th, April 14th.
Right.
Chapter 10, chapter 12, and the appendices.
Right.
April 28th is chapter 2 and chapter 8. Yep. And probably it'll be follow up with the appendices possibly as well. And then a special meeting on May 5th.
May 5th, okay. With beer?
Pardon?
You can have beer at it?
Did you
Cinco
say
de
beer?
Mayo.
Oh, well,
Jim says he's bringing the beer.
all right, that sounds good. And then April 12th,
May 12th?
I'm sorry, May 12th, thank you. And May 26th, and would be for introduction, and then final hearing and adoption on June 9th.
Oh.
All subject to change, of course, but that's kind of where we're at right now, where council's at.
Dan, was that your question as well? Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're good, Mark.
Okay. Tonight's the housing elements. We've got some last minute changes that Matthew will go over based on some recent amendments, changes to GMA made by the legislature this session in 2026. And then your next meeting on April 23rd, focus on the city UGA and county zoning map amendments. So tonight was the text stuff, and then that we need to concurrent anyway, not everything, but and then the 23rd will be zoning map amendments. And then we'll come back on May 14th. We got comment letter from Commerce, and they are requesting that we include the adequate provisions checklist with our comp plan submittal. So we've been working on that, and we'll run that by you guys. That's the one that's to identify barriers to affordable housing. So we'll have that for you on May 14th. And that's all I got, I think, unless you guys have any questions.
Anyone have any questions? All right, thanks, Mark.
Yep, thanks.
Now we'll move to open session for public comment. Eileen, can you run that?
Yes.
Oh,
Welcome.
hold up. Dan, you got a question?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Sweet. Yeah, Mark, so on the 23rd, for planning commission meeting, doing the city UGA and zoning map, are we, like, the council hasn't finalized their, like, UGA or something like that, I think. So are we finalizing something they haven't finalized yet, or what are we doing on the 23rd?
Muted.
We can't hear you, Mark.
Sorry. Yeah, we're just keeping up, Dan, with where the proposals are to date. And so they may make some more changes after April 28th. And as they do that, then we'll come back with zoning changes accordingly. But we're just trying to keep up with them from what we know to date, from what your recommendations, and then what their recommendations are as well.
Okay, great. Then let's move on to open session for public comment.
Okay. Welcome to the meeting. This meeting is being broadcast live and the audio is being recorded and will be posted to the county website. As noted on our website, members of the public may watch the meeting or join online or by phone. During this time, you may not speak to the items that are listed for the public hearing tonight, which is the housing and concurrent code amendments. You can speak on all other matters aside from that. You'll be given 3 minutes. We do have 2 members of the public in the room and 0 attendees online, so we will ask, do any of you wish to speak at this time?
Yes.
Okay. You will be given 3 minutes if you want to come onto the podium.
You're ready for public hearing?
Yes.
Oh, different. No, we're here for the public hearing.
There are no other.
Okay, then we will move on from open session, and now it's time for commissioner comments. Anybody have anything? Not seeing anybody, so let's move on to minutes of March 26th.
Approval?
We have a motion to move approval. 30 seconds. I will second then. Or Nick seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Eileen, you call the roll?
Yes, Barry,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Noblock,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bossari,
Yes.
that passes.
Okay, now we move on to our meeting topic, periodic update related to housing and concurrent code amendments presented by Maddie. Go ahead, Maddie.
Sure, so Maddie Schott, Senior Planner in the Long Range Division. Thanks for having me tonight. We are presenting on 8 proposed code amendments, all required under the Washington State Growth Management Act and required to be adopted concurrently with the periodic update. And broadly, they're all to promote affordable housing and also address some gaps in accommodations for essential needs in rural communities and ensure consistency with the Whatcom County periodic update. So. Please, okay. Wanted to provide a quick summary of kind of where we're at in the process. So the planning commission has already reviewed ADUs and co-living housing code amendments. And that was adopted by council December 9th. You've already reviewed the Blaine UGA related zoning map amendments. That has yet to be reviewed by county council, I believe. That's going to go the next couple meetings here as part of chapter 2. And then we're on housing and concurrent code amendments for tonight. Like Mark said, we are going to present the proposed zoning map amendments at the next meeting on the 23rd. And then any remaining code amendments that we need to make as part of the periodic update to ensure internal consistency, we'll bring to you guys on the 14th. So anything that identified after this. This is just a summary of the 8 topics we're proposing tonight. The first, which is the big one, which we sent an extra memo about today, but we're needing to amend it even again because we received further clarification. So we're just starting to review all of the new laws that were passed by the legislature in 2026. And one of them came up. It is. Sorry, House Bill 2269. So it's specifically regarding middle housing and landlords. And so it was kind of silent before this, but the legislature passed a new bill saying, yes, you can have middle housing and landlords. So that's duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, up to 6plexes, cottage housing, townhouses. But they must be connected to public sewer service. Public sewer service is not available in the High Notes Corner, Poland Guide, or Custer landlords. So that affects our proposal. So we're actually proposing to withdraw those amendments, proposed amendments, I should say, and then reconsider them at the next, it'll be the second hearing coming up here May 14th. So we're gonna come back, reevaluate, and then provide some more information to you guys about yeah, in short, we're revising our proposed amendment to allow for duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes as a permitted use in the 3 UR zones. So urban residential mixed, and it's already allowed in URM. So it would be, they must be consistent with the density requirements of the zone. So this is not affecting density. It's just affecting what types of housing you can have. So instead of having you know, a certain style, you can now have like a triplex or a duplex or that kind of thing. So it's not affecting density, it's just affecting the type of house you can have on the property. It does require, we are proposing it require public water, sewer, and stormwater service with a maximum of 4 attached units. And that's in the RCW to limit middle housing to 4 attached units. So that's what we're currently proposing. The second is regarding a new state law also aimed at creation of more affordable housing, is removing limitations on the number of unrelated persons that can be in a household. So we were surprised to find in our code that our definition of family includes a limitation of up to 5 unrelated persons in a household within the definition of family. Wow. So, and the code sets it up so that families occupy dwelling units. So anything that refers to family or dwelling unit is out of compliance with this new code, or state law, I should say. But really the easiest way to remedy that is just to update the definition of family, which we are proposing to you guys to take away that 5-person limitation and kind of bring up to current snuff with the rest of our dwelling unit definitions.
Irene, can you bring it up so I can see if people raise their hands?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
If anyone raises their hands, it'll go up to the top.
Okay, great. Jim?
Well, I guess my question is, since we're tweaking these to make them consistent with RTWs,
Mhm.
what is our role here to say, raise it slightly different or what?
Yeah, it's tough in that we're required to make these changes. Some of them are super straightforward, like you must do this, and some of them have a little bit more wiggle room about how you can do it. So if you think that there are better ways to do it, we are absolutely open to that. So let us know. But a lot of this is, and a lot of our job is just complying with state law. So wanting to present what's changing though. For ADUs, the planning commission already reviewed this, but new standards for ADUs and UGA, so we now need to update our definition to recognize that ADUs can be located on lots other than on lots with just single family residences. So we're updating our definition to reflect that and yeah, align with the new state definition that was adopted. Oops. Another proposed amendment is residential off-street parking standards. So, relaxing of standards, I should say. So the state is interested in providing more developable area on lots to housing instead of parking. And so they're looking at different ways of doing that. One is reducing the maximum parking stall size. So our current maximum stall size is 9 by 18. It'd go down by a foot in width, so it'd be 8 by 18. Allowing for grass block pavers as a surface material instead of maybe all concrete or all asphalt. Removing limitations on where parking stalls must be located if they need to be closed or unenclosed. There's some jurisdictions that say they must be located in garages. Ours doesn't, but there are some minor tweaks we needed to making sure we don't have any limitations on where they can be on the lot. We need to allow for tandem parking stalls, so one in front of the other. And that just wasn't in code, it was silent, so we're amending our code to say, yes, you can do that. And then there's an interesting part, required part, I should say, that said for off-street parking requirements shall be exempted if it means the project wouldn't comply with tree retention standards. So it's saying you do not have to do any required off-street parking for residential developments only. If it means you can't comply with tree canopy retention requirements. There's only 2 areas in the county that has that, Point Roberts and Lake Whatcom watershed. So we did specify it's those 2 areas only.
You're saying that's only pertinent to the special overlay districts?
It's we only have special tree canopy requirements in those 2 overlay districts. Point Roberts special
Lake Sam.
district. I don't believe so. Like, I could be wrong.
I mean, I could be wrong.
Well, maybe Craig will look that up for me.
How about I'll look that up?
We'll look that up. Thank you for catching
Yeah, I
that.
thought there was something else besides Lake Whatcom that fit into that category, whether it's Sammy's or Patton.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Craig. Okay,
You bet.
we'll look into that. Some new landlord standards. So landlords are those limited areas of more intense rural development. They're really interesting in that it was part of enactment of the Growth Management Act to help prevent sprawl back in 1999. So there's these limited areas in the county that has more intense rural development. Since that time, the state's been really strict about limiting how you can develop those areas or redevelop those areas. And there's size limitations in the code saying you can only do X square foot size of building and that kind of thing. They're actually starting to relax some of those standards. And they're saying that to promote new and expanded retail and food uses in landlords, they're going to allow up to 2,500 square feet of new space for those. And then up to, this is blocking it, but I think it says, let's see. Up to 5,000 square feet for existing developments. And so you could have new or expanded retail and food uses in all landlords. And then you can have new essential rural retail services in 3 of our landmarks, Point Roberts, Diablo, and New Halem, because they're 10 miles away from an urban growth area. And that's to, like I said, to address some of those like housing needs in our rural communities that aren't being addressed. So it's going to allow for things like new grocery stores, pharmacies, hardware, automotive stores, similar uses that are essential services for our communities that just weren't captured in landmark standards before. So that's an exciting day, I think that's needed.
Marijuana sales?
I don't know if that's an essential, there's a state definition, I didn't see that in there. Okay, we have new essential public facilities standards as well. So the Growth Management Act added a couple new uses. One of the uses is community facilities, which we had to look up, what does that mean? And it actually means that it is a group care facility operated for the care of juveniles committed to the state. So it's actually, it's for juveniles who are, check my notes here. It is, because I talked to the health department about this, group care facilities for incarcerated minors who are committed to the Washington State Department of Children, Youth and Family Services. So they're actually more like juvenile, detention facilities. So we did need to make the distinction between these new type of community facilities and public community facilities like community centers, police stations, that kind of thing. So that is a new use that we are required to allow in Whatcom County. That's why it was categorized as an essential public facility under the Growth Management Act, but we do get to dictate where they can go. That's part of those, you know, a little bit of flexibility. We are proposing to allow it in the same zones that allow for, let's see here. Yes, those juvenile rehabilitation facilities, which are the urban residential medium, and urban residential mixed. So adding it to those 3 zones as a conditional use. Oh, great, has the tree information.
Want to circle back around to that?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so Jim's quite correct that there is tree retention associated with development activity in both the Water Resource Protection Overlay District,
Okay.
which affects Padden and Samish. And then Lake Whatcom's its own chapter,
Mhm.
but the language is almost identical
Okay.
in there. And then the Point Roberts is sort of its own animal. But yes.
Perfect, thank you. Great catch, Jim. So yeah, we're hoping the planning commission can amend the proposed language to incorporate that it applies to the Water Resource Protection Overlay District as well. Great. And then we have a proposed amendment to the heavy impact industrial zoning district regarding buffer standards. So as part of the comp plan proposal, I believe we're proposing to have a portion of the northern area of the Cherry Point UGA be de-designated from UGA and go to rural designation. And as part of that, there's this code section in heavy impact industrial zone that says it applies to certain buffer area. As a result of de-designating that area, it would actually have part of that buffer go into the BP's main plant area in their Cherry Point refinery. So we are proposing to amend the language to specifically say, to essentially resolve that. So it's not going to affect their plant area. And then our last one is about solid waste standards in Point Roberts. So essentially we have a new solid waste management plan adopted or approved by the Washington State Department of Ecology. And it would allow for commercial composting and mulching facilities as a conditional use in Point Roberts. That is the end, of my presentation. We did catch something though that we need to clarify that multifamily dwellings in the URMX need to comply with the density requirements of the zoning district. So we did forget to put that. So we're hoping the planning commission can adopt that as well.
Just back on the special public facilities for treatment of juveniles, whatever you call those. Those are limited to Which zones?
The UR zone, so urban residential medium, and urban residential mixed. And we're proposing those zones because those zones already allow for juvenile rehabilitation facilities.
I was thinking, well, what zone is, how do you categorize New Halem?
As a Lammer,
Yeah, it is a Lambert, so it couldn't be in Lamberts.
so that's a special overlay, then there's zoning underneath
Right.
that. So we're looking
I
at
just
what
thought that might be
zoning.
a nice
districts.
place to put one.
Well, we do want to provide urban services to those folks as well, so.
Okay, is there any other questions on the presentation?
Yeah, just the one on the heavy impact industrial, is there equivalent language in the light industrial?
Yes, there is.
Because that raises a question of the full disclosure, I own I know the piece of property that sure, BP is planning to de-designate. And it is, I have a piece of property that is on one side of that. So my question is, if they de-designate it, what happens to the buffer requirements on my light industrial property?
Let me pull up the actual code so we can take a
Or
look.
anybody, because there's other light industrial properties along that strip as well. It's not just me, but
Yeah, so this is the actual code amendment which we are proposing, which says it's for heavy impact industrial, and it says in no case shall the setback from the northern and western boundaries of the Cherry Point heavy industrial area, which are west of Safston Road and not contiguous to another industrial zone, be less than 660 feet. And then required buffers may be provided offsite by written agreement in the form of a deed restriction and the offsite parcel that runs with the land. So I'm not sure that applies to your property or not. I don't think so.
so. Well, no, that's what I'm saying is what are the light requirements?
Oh, pull up light industrial.
Right.
We can do that.
Maybe before we get too far down that road, we should have our public hearing.
Agreed.
That's fine. That's fine as well, but I'm gonna ask, so I wanted to give you, I don't need an answer tonight. I just say I wanted to give you a heads up that I will be asking that question.
Yeah, we're not proposing any changes in the light industrial zone. So it's just the HII.
We
No,
have a hand
change.
online from Matthew, just in case it wasn't being seen.
Yeah, actually, we can't see the hand because of where the thing got stuck. Sorry about that. But
I took my hand down if we were trying to move on, but I would like to come back to something on that point at the appropriate time.
I think Rudd can finish his sentence. I'd like to do the public hearing, and then I think we might want to have some kind of orderly way to go through it.
Yeah,
My point, Matt, is I know you're not changing the light industrial, but the change in designation of that land has an effect on the adjacent light industrial users that I don't think has been factored into the question.
And we are going over the proposed zoning map amendments at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, anyway, so that's it.
Okay, then let's go ahead and open the public hearing. You do that, Eileen?
Yes. As stated before, this meeting is being broadcast live and will be uploaded to our website. The public hearing is for the housing code amendments. If you would like to speak at this time, please step up to the podium, state your name for the record. You're given 3 minutes to speak. Does anyone in the room wish to speak at this time?
Yes.
she does.
So please, state your name for the record and then you can write your name down.
Okay, oh, I forgot, I didn't write my name down. Okay, I'm Amy DeVera, with ERM Environmental Resources Management. And I'm here to support BP Cherry Point, as regards to item number 7 in the staff report and exhibit G, related to the heavy impact industrial buffer amendments. It's a continuation of, the discussion regarding that topic. I'm just here to support BP and the proposed amendments as they are provided. And, just want to make sure that you know that I'm available for questions, if there aren't. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comment. Do you wish to speak at this time?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where it is. Please say your name for the record.
Yep, good evening. My name is Tamara Lindhart and I'm speaking on behalf of BP's Cherry Point Refinery. BP appreciates the work of staff and the Planning Commission on the Heavy Impact Industrial Buffer Amendment WCC 20-68. And we want to express our support for the proposed language as presented. We believe it provides appropriate clarity and aligns with the county's intent. BP does not have requested changes and supports moving forward with the proposal in its current form. Thanks for the time.
Thank you for your comment. I'm gonna check to see those that are online. We have 0 attendees online.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and move on to the work session. I would propose that we just go through these in order, and then if anyone has comments on one, we can address it. If not, we move on to the next one. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Would we adopt them, in order to, or wait till the end?
I don't know that we need to adopt them in order, but if people want to make motions to, they can. I'm open to that though. Just for time's sake, if, I don't know, we need to do a roll call on every single one. I think if we get to the end and people want to pull certain ones out,
That sounds
we could
good.
maybe do it that way.
That sounds great.
Okay, well then, starting on the first proposal. That's the adequate provisions. You're wanting to pull that whole one or just part of that one?
Just part of that one regarding RR and small town commercial. So we are still proposing duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes in the UR and the URMX district, as well as updating the duplex and fourplex and multifamily and triplex definitions.
Okay, does anybody have any comments on that one?
Anyway, so you wanted to pull those out because we didn't have public sewer, right?
So there's a new law, the state legislature just passed clarifying that you can have middle housing types in landmarks, but they must be serviced by public sewer.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why we're pulling that out, because we just became aware of that. Yeah, and we're wanting to reevaluate,
But why not just leave it in as exactly as the legislature said?
because there is no public sewer in those areas.
No, I know, but if you leave it in as the legislature says, you may trigger the economic viability of putting in public sewer if the code allows it. If you don't have it in there, then no one will attempt it.
So this was also coming from the perspective of, I know you guys have heard about this, the Housing for All planning tool that allocated a certain number of rural housing units. And we're trying to accomplish that through adding it into those landmarks. But now I think we're trying to reevaluate if we need to relocate those. So we're wanting to talk about that more and re-present to you guys at the next meeting. So.
Yeah. But personally, I would rather I'd rather see the code allows it, provided you meet the public sewer infrastructure requirement, than to say we're not going to allow it because there is no infrastructure. Because the second one will guarantee it will never get built. First one says, I mean, what you may find is someone puts in a small scale public sewer system and actually takes everybody who's on existing septic systems off. I mean, the house I grew up in, that's exactly what happened.
Mm.
We were on a septic system, and one day they ran the sewer line down the road. Unplugged this septic system and plugged into the sewer system.
Yeah, we also received a letter from Futurerise regarding this, and so we just thought, hey, let's reevaluate, but I definitely get where you're coming from.
Dan?
Thanks. Yeah, so I think where this also comes into play is that the county council, in the March 3rd passed a paragraph that says, allow a density no greater than 1 unit, 2 ADUs per parcel, so long as the development meets all applicable building construction, development, land use, and health codes, and that would be allowing that to happen without sewer or water service. So I think it sounds like what we're talking about is when we tell the county council, like, they need to change that decision as well. Is that correct?
So we're going to need to reevaluate, I think, where we're assigning those rural densities, just in light of this new law that was passed from the state legislature that was codified in the Growth Management Act, which we're required to address as part of the comp plan update. You know, it doesn't help that they pass laws that affect us in the middle of our comp plan update when we've already been discussing, where we're wanting to put these housing types. So, like I said, I think we're wanting to reevaluate.
So Selena and then Jim.
Just asking for clarity on the city or the county staff position. So you're not saying what Rudd had suggested of leaving those kinds of zoning allowable, pending someone else building a sewer. You're not saying that that's not something you wouldn't do. You're just saying you want to come back in 2 weeks and make your recommendations then. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. We're wanting to come back and reevaluate because we need to have further discussions about if these are the appropriate landmarks to have, if there are other landmarks that are more appropriate. There are some landmarks that do have public sewer service, like Sudden Valley and Sandy Point. We need to discuss if that's appropriate. And so we just need further evaluation because all of this was kind of brought to attention today.
Thank you.
I think it'd be fairly simple just to say they're allowable landmarks, consistent with, and then quote the RCW. And then, that way, like Red is saying, if it's worth building a sewer system so they could develop the landmark, fine. But we don't have to choose which landmarks they might do that in.
Right?
Does the state legislature say you have to choose which limits this is? So therefore it applies to all limits. Yeah. So therefore, I reinforce my point. I think it's like Jim said. It seems to be a requirement under the RCW. We just say it's permitted, provided you provide it. So.
I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a policy, be a big thing for you guys to spin your policy wheels up or down, that's all. But
We appreciate the input.
I'll give you an example. Sorry, I'll give you an example. The Custer Lamid, I think, is a good location for housing. The problem is it's too wet to support a lot of septic systems. But that wouldn't stop someone from putting in a private sewer system and pumping the water somewhere where it could be infiltrated adequately. But that's a large scale system, or a small scale urban system, but a large scale rural system, right? So if you said it's permitted, someone may turn around and say, you know what, the math works. We're gonna pump that stuff, half a mile up the road, there's a nice big open area, it's sandy soil, it infiltrates really well. So, and that would allow the density in the land. So.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I've got a question if you want to pull up Exhibit A. And I realize now that the codes are a little bit different than how they're outlined in the staff memo. But so under those definitions there, all three of them, duplex, fourplex, triplex, they all say not more than 2, not more than 4, not more than 3. To me, that's a little confusing because if you say a fourplex is a building containing not more than 4, wouldn't that mean a duplex and a triplex or a fourplex? Shouldn't you get rid of that and just say a building containing 4, a building containing 3, a building containing 2?
I think we were just matching our CW language, but.
So that is exactly how the RCW has it written?
I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's where we pulled it from.
Okay. I'm often inclined to go with RCW language, but I think that sounds incorrect to me. So can you verify that? You don't have to do it the second.
Yeah, pull it up.
Are there any other questions? Essentially, Exhibit A is what's pertaining to, it looks like proposed amendment 1 and 2, which I think we're kind of talking about concurrently. Nobody else has anything. I've got something else. You go down to the RR district. 0.52. So it says duplexes within the RR2 and RR3 zoning districts within the High Notes Corner Pole and Guide and Custer comprehensive plan.
Yeah, we were proposing to remove that. We just,
Remove it altogether.
and reconsider it at the, May
Okay,
14th.
yeah. The only comment I'll have on it when we're reconsidering it is when we passed our recommendations, we had public water required. That one doesn't have it listed.
That was an error. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, but we'll address that. We'll come back to
Mhm.
that one.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the next question I have is the next one down 0.055. Under small town commercial.
Yeah. That was, removed because Eileen has the amended one pulled up.
Okay, well, we can, just so you have it, so if you can get an answer for me when you come back to it. C on that said permitted use is only allowed on lots created as effective date of the ordinance codified in this section. I haven't seen that pertaining to anything else other than that section.
Yeah, that's just in STC. So that was a special provision in STC for, duplexes already.
Says 1 triplex or 4plex per lot of record within those areas. It's getting reconsidered. But it says it's only allowed if the lot was created before the new ordinance, and I never heard that the lot has to be created before that new ordinance.
Yeah, I think it had to do with, the results of a lawsuit regarding that zoning district, so.
Maybe you can come back with the background on that on the next meeting. Okay. Does anyone have anything else on Exhibit A? Which is 1 and 2 of the amendments. Okay. Oh, Dan?
Yeah, I guess I'd just make a motion that we hold this for a couple of weeks and come back later if that sounds okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to hold Exhibit A, which is, I think, proposed amendment 1 and 2. Till next time. Red?
Why wouldn't we discuss this now? Dan?
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss it, just there wasn't really like a motion on the table, so motion second, now we can discuss. I think it sounds like the staff wants to like think about this a little bit and come back and have a discussion in a couple weeks. If there's stuff we can, share with them now that helps them in that journey, great. If there's not, no things will change, maybe we just have this conversation in a couple of weeks. I'm not militant about it though.
Yeah, and your motion was just to hold the whole section instead of piecemeal it apart now, since they're pulling parts of it out. We'll just address the whole thing at once. Is that what that motion was?
No, he said the whole Exhibit A.
Yeah, we'll just hold all of Exhibit A, because staff was just wanting to pull parts of it out till next time. And the motion is to hold the whole exhibit, right?
Yeah, I would say let's hold the whole thing. And then once staff has kind of had their thing, because there's like a lot of moving parts in there. Like when we're not going to allow places to be built on a septic. It has to be a sewer. Like that changes a lot of stuff. That changes growth projections. That changes where housing's allowed. We'll need to look at UGA sizes. Like there's a lot of stuff that affects.
Yep.
I'm just wondering if we are gonna hold this off for reconsideration after staff works on it some more, if we can provide written input to staff so they can accommodate that into their revisions, and then it'll be tighter when it gets back to us. I appreciate you all who read this stuff really carefully, because I didn't really read that part very carefully, and it's quite admirable that you're finding these discrepancies.
Well, I think you can always do that, Jim.
I could.
You can always send them stuff to review.
Yeah, I'm just encouraging the rest of you to do that.
I don't think we can put a limit on that.
No, I'm just saying that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Fred?
So I'd speak against your motion simply because I think the most efficient thing is for us to go through this tonight. Identify areas that we want staff to review
Mhm.
in its entirety and then come back. I don't mind voting on whether we accept it or not in a couple of weeks after staff have done the review. But I want to give staff the feedback tonight.
Did you have other stuff on Exhibit A? It seemed like nobody had anything else. So this,
No, I mean, I guess on exhibit A, no.
yeah, just that one. We're gonna still talk about the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, okay, well, all right.
Okay, there's a motion to hold Exhibit A. If there's no other comments, Eileen, can you call the roll?
Yes, Brown,
Yes,
Dunn,
Yes.
Noblock,
Yes.
Gripe,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Mosseri,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
that passes.
Okay, then let's move on to Exhibit B, which would be proposed amendment 3, I think. No. I think that the memo might be in a different order than the exhibits.
Let me check.
Yeah, I guess number 2, unrelated households. Number 2 is Exhibit B.
That's right.
Okay. Does anybody have any, Rudd?
why do we even care anymore?
Yeah, I think the state is trying to get at any way that they can promote affordable housing, and they're wanting to remove barriers to that. And so if jurisdictions just saying, hey, you can only have 5 unrelated people in a household, that's a barrier. And so they're wanting to remove that.
No, my question is, why do we even care? How many unrelated people are, why do we even limit it to a family?
It's a good question. This is
That's
the
why we
way.
didn't want hippie communes.
Oh, no,
Okay,
You know,
besides
yeah.
Jim, why do we,
and that's where I used to live.
you know, I lived the same way. I spent the first 15 years of my life living in communal housing.
There is a push in the state, jurisdictions are moving away from the term family and moving towards the term household. We have so many definitions that refer to family. It would be a rabbit hole to try and, at this point, replace it with the term household. We can look at that in the future, but we thought this was the easiest, quickest way to resolve the issue and meet the state code.
Dan, Freddie, you got more?
But just for clarification, I spent the first 15 years of my adult life. living in communal
I
housing.
was wondering about your parents.
Yeah, but, yeah, I mean, I just always struggled with why we get into policing who chooses to live with each other, provided they do so in a safe and manner that complies with the health code.
Right, and so I think that's what the revision is
Yeah.
doing as well, like, yeah, removing that.
Dan?
Yeah, I would agree with Rudd. I think it's kind of irrelevant, like who lives in a house. Mostly, like, you know, you don't want to have like 40 people live in a studio apartment. That's a health and safety issue. But like whether it's people who are married or it's like their friends or like whatever, I don't think it really matters. I did like the city of Bellingham's definition. They said household means an individual or collection of individuals occupying the entire dwelling unit. That seems pretty reasonable to me. It's short and sweet. So I don't know if we want to say, you know, if changing the word family is burdensome, maybe if we just say, hey, family means this Bellingham's definition, an individual or collective individuals occupying the entire dwelling unit.
That make it simpler all the way through, right?
Selena?
So the definition of family in the proposed amendment is what's used in the RCW? Is that correct?
No, we're just removing the 5-person limitation. So if the planning commission is wanting to go in a different direction, like the city of Bellingham's definition, I think we would be amenable to that.
That would be I'd make that motion. We just make it as unrestricted as possible.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Whatever the most permissive version of this language is, strikes me as best.
So Rudd, your motion is to go with the city of Bellingham's definition that was read by Dan?
You'd have to rewrite, what was it again, Dan?
It is in the staff.
It would
Oh,
It
yeah.
would be,
it's-
family. It'd be
What page?
family means individual or collection of individuals occupying the entire dwelling unit. On the report on the agenda, I'm on the 11th page, which is also called page 6 of 15, about halfway down the definitions there.
Sorry, you've lost me now, Dan. What pages are you referring to?
You have
Oh,
page
sorry,
615.
Yeah,
Of
so
the
in the
staff.
agenda packet, in the agenda packet, it's the 11th page. But it's the page itself is titled page 6 of 15, and it's in the section on yeah, it's under number 2, number of unrelated persons, and it's like the second page in that section.
At the very top of the page. Oh, right there, under City of Bellingham, chose to replace this
There you go.
definition. The
Yep,
definition.
right there, household means.
Yeah, I like that because takes the county completely out of the business of defining what a family is.
Lena, did you second that motion with Rudd? Or?
I didn't, but I will. Second.
All right. We have a motion, a second. Does anyone have any comment on this? I can't see anyone's hands right now.
Sorry.
Or anyone's screens.
There you go.
I would just say I do like that simpler definition more, and I get that we're trying to comply with state code the most quickly way. I think that at some point, code scrub wise, I don't think to try to keep changing family definitions and just change to household, I think will be a better code long term. Does anyone have any other comments on this motion? Dan?
I use just a clarifying question. Did we want to change the definition of the word family to be this new simpler definition? Or do we want to say, hey, go through the code, strike the word family, and put in the word household? I think changing the definition of family would be the easier one because we get to leave the word family in a million places mentioned. But changing the word family to household would be a more thorough, I think, change.
Matt, I'll let Rudd clarify what his motion was and then go to you.
Well, I think because there's if you're gonna change the word family to household, you're gonna have to scrub the whole code. So I'd rather just keep the definition of family, but use the word family. But then just say is a household, blah, blah, blah. Right.
I think we prefer that.
Yeah.
Matt?
Everybody's stealing my points ahead of me tonight, but I was going to suggest we say family or household means in it just to keep it as open as possible. But I'm happy with where this is going.
Family is in the definition, so it has to be, it's used throughout the code, so you have to give it a definition. So.
Mark? You're muted.
Thank you. Maddie, can you, or right down there where it says family, where the definition is in Exhibit B, let me just bring up Exhibit B. I think there's a really simple.
Right.
We're working on that actual code.
As proposed, it says family means a single person, comma, family, comma, or unrelated persons living together. We could just insert after that or a household of unrelated persons living together. And then you've got household and family in the same definition with no constraints. Right, so family means a single person, comma, family, comma, or a household of unrelated persons living together. Does that get at what you guys were talking about? wanting to do?
Yeah, you're right, Mark.
So are you wanting to change your motion to this?
Yeah, so
Say-
well, it's just,
So that's the different than your original motion. Go move up just a little bit, Patty.
well, I would just strike it after the word dwelling unit. Strike everything else afterwards.
Right?
Yeah, we do want to note that any household arrangement protected under the Federal Fair Housing Act, falls under this definition. So that's state statute.
Dominic, I got a question.
Okay, before that, I was just gonna say, Selena, you were second on this. Are you okay to amend the motion to this or, right?
So just to be clear, the new amended motion would be, instead of going with the exact Bellingham definition, sticking with the one currently being exhibited in the agenda packet, but cutting off after dwelling unit on the first line?
No,
That's not how I understand it.
we need to keep the rest of that definition, as Maddie said, for statutory reasons, and Fair Housing Act reasons. But it would add after that, or in the first sentence, a household of unrelated persons.
Yeah, sure, I'm fine with that second.
Dan?
Yeah, I would advocate for the original motion. So I would strike the first part. So family means, I would strike from means through that's that first sentence there, keeping the second part, which is the term family shall also include, so the term family or under, like using the word that you're defining in the definition doesn't make a lot of sense to me, I guess. So I would prefer that it just says.
We lost you partway through. You were getting
Okay,
kind of,
can you hear me okay now? How about this? Is this any better?
I think so.
Okay. I will keep it short then. When you have the word you're defining in the definition, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So having family, like the word family, inside the definition for family doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, to me, I would prefer the original motion means an individual or collection of individuals occupying the entire dwelling unit, and then I would keep that second part that says the term family shall also include any household arrangement, that kind of thing.
Right?
Yeah, the problem is that the other definition is the definition of a household, not the definition of a family. Look, I guess I'm gonna yield on this because it is so, in so many areas of the code. I just don't think we should be, philosophically, I don't even think we should be ever raising the question. But as you've got the word family throughout the code, you do have to have a damn definition, so I'm gonna reverse and say we'll go back to what's currently there.
Selena?
If there needs to be a second, I second Red's reversal. But I agree. So I think originally the conversation had been, we essentially wanted family to just mean household, without needing to replace the entire word all over the code. So I think what Dan was getting at, or like Red, what you were saying, that essentially we're just defining a household is what Dan is trying to do. We're just using the word family interchangeably with household. So yeah, I'm on board with Dan's suggestion.
So, Red?
So here's another option. We had the definition of household and we just copied the Bellingham one. And then at a future point, when you change it to household, you've already got your definition in place.
So we have a, Dan?
It might be a little bit like odd, but could we just use the same definition for both words? You could say, household means individual, collection of individuals, and then family means an individual or collection of individuals occupying the entire. So that anywhere that the word family or household appears in the code, we're saying the same thing, which I think is kind of what we're doing anyways. We're saying, household is a collection of people, and we're also saying like family in the term like multifamily dwelling is also a collection of individuals.
Yeah.
I just had a thought, having had to deal with these sorts of things and interpreting them when we get proposals. If you really wanted to add or a household to the definition of family, you could then define or adopt the city of Bellingham definition of household, and then it wouldn't conflict. Everyone would know what household meant. Yeah, it seems a little redundant, but Red's correct that the word family is used all throughout the code. So it's a little precarious when we just start changing that. We don't know what the ramifications are of that. We didn't look at that.
My current proposal is exactly what you just said.
Okay.
So when we get to family wage jobs, they'll now be household wage jobs.
So just procedurally, we have a motion, we kind of amended the motion on the fly.
And he reverted back.
I think we need to spell, I think, the motion and get to whatever motion we want, so.
Maker of the motion and the second to withdraw.
Let's get it.
Okay, so we've withdrawn that motion, Rudd and Selena?
Yes,
Okay, so what do we have on the table then?
the motion is to add the definition of household as written up on the screen.
Okay, is it also amending family that's written on the screen?
No.
Okay, so Rudd you're making a motion to leave the definition that staff had originally alone
For family.
for family and add a household definition. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have any seconds? Selena?
Sorry, so to accomplish what we want to accomplish, wouldn't we also need to add household to the existing definition of or to the staff suggestion of definition of family, and then use this definition of household, add that to the code separately? Was that not the idea that had been suggested?
No, it's my motion was to put the definition of household in now. So at a later date, when the code gets updated, we already know what the definition is.
Dan?
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so Rudd, your motion is to add the definition seen on the screen of household, using individual collection rules, but not change anything about the family definition. I think you made that motion and there wasn't a second? There was not a second?
Not been a second yet.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a second.
Okay.
Maddie?
I think there was a point that if you're trying to tie the two together, then you need to mention household in the definition of family.
Yeah, I'm not trying to tie the two of them together.
Oh, you're not trying to, okay.
No, I'm trying to give you the option that when you do a code scrub to change from family to household,
I see,
knowing what the definition of household.
by
is.
putting it in now ahead of time. Okay,
Yeah.
I see.
Dan?
I agree with this definition for household. I think having the word household be defined this way is great. I think the core thing, though, for me, that I would like to be using this definition for family as well. So, like, I would support this motion, and especially if afterwards we have another motion where we're saying let's change the definition of family to a household or something.
I didn't, yeah, you were a little choppy there.
We're getting 50% of what you're saying, Dan.
Let's see. I might put it in the comments. Can you hear me any better now?
Yes.
Okay. So the definition of household means individual or collection of individuals. That looks good. I would also like to change the definition of family to mirror the definition of household.
You can make an amendment to the motion. Currently, that's not in the motion.
Okay, then we got a motion and a second. Then I guess I would motion a amendment that would change the definition of the word family to be the same as the word for household.
You have a motion for amendment, Selena?
Just to clarify, that would still maintain the part of the definition that's statutorily needed about the Washington Family Something or Other Act, Dan? In that case,
Yes.
then I second your amendment.
Okay, we've got a motion to amend. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Eileen, can you call the roll?
Yes.
On the motion to amend or the main motion?
The motion to amend.
No block,
Yes.
Gripe,
Yes.
Hanson,
Aye.
Wasseri,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes,
Dunn,
Yes.
that passes.
a done deal.
Okay, we have an amended motion now. Is there any discussion on the main motion?
No, and the amended motion needs to be shown on the screen.
Should be able to just copy the means, copy the definition of household
Yes.
and replace it with the family definition other than the statutory required part.
This. Does that look?
I believe so. I don't know if the with no limitations on the number is part of the statutory requirement or not. But the amendment, the people who made the amended motion, does this look correct?
I can't see anything on my screen. I guess what I'm looking at is the staff report.
Yeah, I think we're not being screen shared on the right thing right now.
Sorry about that. Can you see that Word document?
So that is the new language, the city of Bellingham language inserted at the beginning.
Yeah, that looks like what I was expecting.
Okay, that's our current motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Eileen, will you call the roll?
Dunn,
Yes.
no block,
Yes.
Gripe,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes,
Wasseri,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, that's it. Is there anything else on exhibit B? I think that was the entire exhibit. So we can move on to exhibit C, which is accessory dwelling unit definition. And is number 3. Anybody have any comments on this? I have a clarifying question. In the staff report, the bottom of it, the amendment summary,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that.
Oops. To what page?
Page 7 of 15,
right?
number 3, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So you,
Better just explain this amendment summary first.
Right, so ADUs previously were only allowed on lots with single family residences, but they now can be allowed on lots with residences other than single family, so duplex, triplex,
Mhm.
fourplex. So we're wanting to amend our code because our code says it can only be on lots with single family residences to reflect that change in allowance.
So the second sentence there, though, in addition, ADUs in general allowed to have a maximum.
So, our current code standard says the current maximum floor area is 1,248 square feet. In UGA's, where new houses are being developed, where ADUs are being developed. It's not uncommon that you have these older houses there that are smaller than the ADU being built. And our code specifically says an ADU must be smaller than the single family residence. So that's what we're getting at is there's a lot of old houses out there and there's a lot of new ADUs being built that are quite large. And so it sets up this conflict where the ADU is actually bigger than the single family residence. And sometimes people switch. So some people say, well, we want to build the new house and we're going to permit it as it's the new primary and then the old one's going to be the ADU. But that's just not always the case. So we're wanting to kind of correct that potential conflict from happening.
So what are you doing?
We show you the actual code here. So it says means an additional instead of is a smaller
Oh,
independent
So-
residential
so
building on the
you're-
same lot.
so this code actually would allow the ADU to be the bigger building.
It just depends on the actual proposal itself, but it could be. Because we are running into scenarios where you do have these historical houses were just typically built smaller in the past.
But why is that a big deal to just make the original house the ADU?
You can. I don't know, Craig, if you see an issue with this.
I don't necessarily see an issue with the word smaller unless the state code is prohibiting us from making that claim going forward. This applies to rural areas and urban growth areas, correct?
This definition does, yep.
Mhm. So in a rural area, we'll make a administrative approval use decision and evaluate all that. And then in the UGA, that'll be done as a permitted use. So we're definitely seeing proposals where people want to do a house and an ADU that are attached. And even propose them at the same size. Whereas we would have to tell somebody that their ADU has to be smaller, but smaller is somewhat undefined. So it sets up sort of a weird quandary that seems unnecessary, from that standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Dan?
Yeah, I support removing the word smaller. I think having language that allows people to build as much as they want to do. Sometimes their ADU will be smaller, something bigger. It doesn't require it to be small, it doesn't require it to be bigger, but it allows the person to kind of make the choice. So I'd support the language as written by staff.
Yep.
Well, I just said that in general, I'd just as soon not have anything more built out in the rural areas, but since we're gonna allow that, seems that they already have, I'm in favor of this because they already are being constrained by the impervious surface and septic requirements that will control the size of their construction anyway. So why have this unnecessary restriction?
Right.
Well, I just, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm coming over to your side, you're coming to my side, but, the restrictive issues is really going to be septic drain field and water if you're on a public water system.
And what?
That would be for bedrooms, but you could have a really big 1-bedroom house. Technically, right?
That's kind of point, yeah.
So, but anyway, so I support the change. The question I have though is, do we have to restrict it to only areas that already permit housing? And I'll give you an example. There are a lot of hangars in the airport, which is under county jurisdiction, that have apartments in them. And the question is, what are they defined as? So if you had a workshop, if you had like a auto repair shop,
Sure.
and the guy wants to put in an ADU in there, why would we want to stop him from doing that?
That would just be the primary at that point, wouldn't it?
Well, no, it's not the primary use. The primary use in that example is either the aircraft hangar or the auto repair shop.
But wouldn't it? I think once there's a house, it becomes the primary use of the property. Is that not true?
It depends on the proposal, and we're not looking at amending our rural standards right now. We're just looking at trying to get this definition up to.
No, the definition says it, or other permitted housing type. So you're limiting it to something that is permitted for housing.
Sure.
You're already, and the county is already permitting effectively an ADU in areas where housing is not permitted. And the airport is number one. There's numerous. There's certainly the larger hangars here, numerous ones of those have housing built in.
Well, it would only apply to lots that allow for accessory dwelling units and whatever the principal unit is on that property. And so it could be, yeah, duplex, triplex, fourplex, or maybe there's some other type of residential housing type on there. And as long as it was permitted, you know, then they could have an ADU if it meets all the ADU requirements for that area. So that's where we're not wanting to list every single type of housing type. That's why we just put and other permitted.
Yeah. And my only comment about other permitted is you already permit areas where housing is not permitted. You already permit effectively an ADU. And I don't want to unpermit those because we limit it to only stuff that's zoned for housing. So I don't know what part of the code allows apartments to be built inside of aircraft hangars, but I know there's quite a few of them.
Commercial.
Dan had his hand up first.
Ed,
Hey, yeah, I was just thinking, so I guess to me an ADU, like by definition, needs to be near a main dwelling unit. Like that's, you know, you can't, if someone just put an ADU on a lot, it would be the primary house, which is just fine, but that's not an ADU. So an ADU is always accessory to a dwelling unit. I think, Rud, for your question about the apartments in like the hangars, I don't think it would be appropriate to put an ADU in a hangar. That just seems like an odd, special, kind of one-off thing. But yeah, I don't want this to like ban any housing types that are existing as well. I don't see how this definition would remove housing that's already been built from the equation, though.
No, but I know a guy who's trying to build about 40 new hangars. And I don't know what his plan is in terms of to what degree any accommodation plan for those. But it's a very common thing on airports to have a degree of accommodation. They're used as sleeping quarters for crew quite often. Right? So
well, this is getting a little convoluted because I think we're trying to simplify this around the size, which I'm in favor of. But in terms of other permitted, how about other permitted uses? And that way it would cross into different zonings where it could be that a apartment would be appropriate. And I think, as I understand, there's some new RCW that is requiring us to allow housing within commercial zoning. Something like that. And so I think it seems like the way of the future to have more combined uses. So I say other permitted uses would be set up for a lot of flexibility.
I think that we're getting confused on what an ADU is versus housing units in general. ADU is very specific that, like Dan said, it goes with something. To have flexible different housing types would be in a different section than changing the ADU.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like after the second change that says permitted housing types goes to ADUs, go by many different names, including accessory apartments, secondary units, and granny flats. I feel like that's pretty dated at this point. I feel like people generally know what ADUs are, and granny flat, I'm not sure is that accurate of a term. I would make a motion to strike that sentence unless staff sees a strong reason for it.
which sentence?
The second sentence. ADUs go by many different names, including accessory apartments, secondary units, and granny flats.
Granny flats.
Why do you want to strike them?
I just think that granny flats isn't not a very common term used. I guess if people want to keep second units and accessory apartments, that's fine. just don't know that granny flats is really an appropriate term to have in our code.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to strike the highlighted sentence. Is there any discussion?
I think the term accessory apartments sometimes is useful because people get confused whether that's something different than an accessory dwelling unit. They often think of that as a standalone unit. So it might be useful to keep that. Granny flat, not so much.
Well, you're younger than me, so.
Am I?
No, I think no, I'm speaking against the motion because it's inclusive language. It's not exclusive language.
That's true.
So it's just saying, and we include all these other ways of describing it. So it allows that stuff to be drawn in, permitted.
Well, you could also say that about mother-in-law suites, or there's a million, carriage houses.
They want to drop the granny flats, so.
Matt?
I support the motion. I think the subsequent sentences or sentence adequately gives several scenarios, and any chance we can get to make the code shorter, I'm in favor of.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, can you call the roll?
Greg,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Mosseri,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Brown,
Fine.
Dunn,
Yes.
no block,
Yes.
that passes.
Okay, do we have anything else on exhibit C?
I'm just gonna say, under the airport code, permitted use 103 is other accessory uses including security and caretaker residences. So I don't know if that's why they've been permitted, maybe that is.
Well, I don't know what we're talking about, so it's hard to speak to that.
Well, and aircraft hangars, again.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. Yeah, caretaker residences, like in the small town commercial, as well, there's caretaker residences that are associated with businesses. So that's, something that's allowed throughout our code in different zonings and some of the LAMRIDs. So I would imagine that that's how those would be permitted, if they were permitted.
Okay, does anybody else have anything on exhibit C?
So, just to be clear, so we're not trying to allow for any accessory dwelling inside a non-residential zoned structure, like a.
Well, we're not affecting anything that's already allowed anywhere else. We're just not.
Right.
I don't know that those are considered ADUs, is I think the point.
Yeah, it might be a different use
Because they're
entirely,
not accessory to a single family dwelling unit
or any other type of residential.
or other
development.
residential development.
Might be
Duplex.
considered, yeah, like you said, caretaker facility or something else,
That's what it
multifamily.
allows for in the airport, looks like. If that's the zoning too, there's also some other zonings around that,
Sure.
but not for the hangars, you're right.
Okay, what are there now?
I'll just make one final comment on exhibit C. I actually like the smaller, I'm not gonna make a motion, but I like the definition of having the smaller in there, just because I think it could be surprising to some people when they have one house there and all of a sudden a whole quite larger house goes in. I know you can do it by changing that, but without doing it, I don't know, I find it a little confusing, but maybe that's just because I've been conditioned to think that the ADU should be smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, we have had scenarios where people have proposed an accessory dwelling unit, like Craig said, as the same size, which has been difficult because it's not smaller, and what is smaller?
Right.
Is it not as tall? Is it square footed? We've just run into so many of these,
Yeah,
gray
I
areas.
get the administrative side of it.
Yeah.
I think that people's neighbors, there'll be neighbors that are gonna be somewhat surprised by this probably at some point, but. I guess since you can just change it to the ADU, maybe it doesn't actually make a difference. So. That was just thought.
Mm.
We can move on to exhibit D, which is the parking.
Yes, that is perfect. And I have the proposed code pulled up.
Okay, and I had one clarifying question on this one in the staff report, which is page 11. No, sorry about that. It's page 7.
Would you like me to pull it up on the screen?
Yeah,
Okay. Dash. Page, who said?
page 7 of the staff report. The bottom, those 2 bullet points seem contradictory to me,
These two?
the top 2.
Right, so this is just talking about in general what the state statute is saying. It's not necessarily specific to how we regulate parking. So the first one is, some jurisdictions require parking stalls to be in garages or carports. Some require them to be in the front setback. Ours talks about it being in the front setback. Can't have structures in the front setback. So does that mean it must be unenclosed? So people can, jurisdictions require it sometimes different ways. So I think the state was trying to get at getting rid of all limitations. If that makes sense.
When I read it, it said prohibits jurisdictions from requiring parking stalls to be located within a garage. Allows required parking stalls to be enclosed or unenclosed within garage and carports. So if how can we allow? We can't, it says we can require parking to be enclosed in garages, but it also prohibits jurisdictions from requiring. Isn't that contradictory?
So it says allows required parking stalls. So it's, for one single family home, you have to have 2 parking stalls. Those are the required number of stalls. Now, and the state is saying those required stalls can be either outside or inside. Yeah, it's confusing. It's required.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we're just getting rid of the.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. I was just confused when I read it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Right.
Page 2 of your proposal.
Yes. Page.
So, under 520 surfacing number 3, bit further down.
Yeah.
Why is there a limit on the parking spaces for a gravel parking area? There's a limit of 6, why 6?
Yeah, that was just the new state statute that up to 6 parking stalls and legally non-conforming gravel parking areas can count towards those required number. So that's what the state statute says. I've personally never seen this used. I don't know if it's an issue. It must be an issue in other jurisdictions, but we just wanted to enumerate that it's not a limitation in our code.
Okay.
So if you're wanting to change the number, but this is what the state is saying we have to allow.
So the state's saying, my question is the state saying you can allow up to a maximum of 6?
Yes,
Or you have to do a minimum of 6?
no, up to a maximum.
Because if the state law says the maximum is 6, you can't make it more than.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's allowing you to use 6 parking stalls, gravel parking lots that aren't conforming, allowing to use that. So it's allowing people using potentially non-conforming stalls. So it's giving people some flexibility on existing parking or something that might be
Exactly,
there.
so they're not having to construct more parking that could be used for development of residences instead.
Right, but I'm just wondering why it's 6, why there's a high number.
It does seem very specific and odd, yeah.
Is there any other questions or comment on exhibit D? If there's nothing on it, I would say we can move to exhibit E.
Oh, I was going to bring up the point, because we talked about the special districts, that it needs to also add the water resource protection overlay, and that was in the last exhibit.
That's an exhibit D.
Mhm.
Where are you suggesting?
Let me go
we
back,
Put that
sorry
in?
about that. Sure. We got down. So for the, it's here, oops. Water resource protection, is it overlay?
Yeah.
WRPO. Berlin. District. Yeah. Just looking at the code section here. Since there are tree retention requirements in that
171.
2071.
So that's Sandwich and Patton.
Yes. So,
Do we think we need a formal motion for this, or if everyone's in agreement? Because it sounds like this should have just been in there
Mhm.
anyways.
Yeah,
Is everyone okay with this?
Sorry, what are you specific? This section,
They should have included the water resource protection overlay district in there as well, because it has tree retention requirements.
well, I'd actually like to make a motion
Okay,
that we strike everything after the word requirements. Well, sorry, so you'd strike, so to read, if complying with the tree retention requirements, if it would otherwise make a proposed residential development or redevelopment infeasible. I don't know why we need to define the districts,
yeah,
because we may put those tree requirements on other districts later on.
I think the idea was there are other tree standards in Whatcom County Code, and we wanted to make the distinction that this is for tree canopy retention requirements, and these are the only areas that have them. And we don't want to get in the situation where people are saying, well, why are you saying I have to retain these trees in a critical area? Or something like that, when that's a different type of standard, whereas it wouldn't exempt them from residential park standards. So there are other tree requirements. We wanted to make sure that there's a clear distinction between that allowance, if that makes sense.
No, but I'm thinking forward is we could change the tree retention requirements in, say, a lamid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because if you don't include the lamid now,
Mm-hmm.
you are forcing that, you've got the tree retention requirement,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have the ability to put the parking off street. So
Yeah.
therefore the development becomes infeasible.
I get what you're saying, but that would require another code amendment, and then we could just fix this code at that time.
And my proposal is, let's fix it now by just saying, if you've got a tree retention requirement that renders the development infeasible, then you don't have to do that on property parking.
Yeah, I think our concern, like I said, was just detailing it's for these areas only.
So,
oh,
no, like I was gonna make a specific motion.
okay.
All right, so if you strike, so you've got the word tree retention requirements.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just gonna pull up the,
Dan Rudd's just making a motion and then.
then you can get after him.
So for the word of,
mhm.
if you strike from the word of, and then insert the word if it and then so now it reads with the tree retention requirements, if it would make otherwise make a proposed residential development or redevelopment infeasible. So it's not area specific, it's countywide.
We've got a motion. Is there a second? Or Dan, do you have clarifying comment on that?
Yeah, I would second that. I would also say that just linguistically, it makes more sense to say provisions do not apply if complying with the tree retention requirements would otherwise make a proposed residential development infeasible. So I suggest, as a friendly, that we take out the if it.
No, sorry, you're right.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Jim, you're gonna earlier.
Yeah, my tendency is if tree retention makes that particular development unfeasible, they should change the development to make it feasible within those parameters. And for instance, your gravel parking could be underneath trees.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what this does is it allows you to not have the parking, right, and maintain the trees.
Okay, gotcha, all right, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something. Ride a bike.
Is there any discussion on this? Is your hand up, Dan? Okay,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think what Jim said was accurate in terms of it. If we go forward with this, it means that if you need to keep trees, then you don't need to do the parking. And that makes sense to me. I think parking should be a thing that's optional. You know, property owner could put in as much or as little as possible, or as they want. And if the county or some jurisdiction said, hey, you know what, you gotta have trees there, then it shouldn't be like, oh, you can't build a house because you can't put in the parking stalls. It's like, well, if we want to make the choice to keep trees, then I guess we can say, well, you don't need to comply with these requirements. So I support this motion.
are there any other comments? Eileen, can you call the roll?
Yes, Hanson,
Yes,
Mosseri,
Abstain.
Barry,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Noblock,
Yes.
Greif, Greif. I don't believe he is on. So that passes 5-1.
Okay, is there anything else on parking? Exhibit D. Seeing nobody, let's move on to Exhibit E, which is Lammer's. Does anybody have any comments on this one? If no one else does, I've got a couple. If you want to go to the Exhibit E. So, in the first one,
oops.
I share this with you.
so on that first chapter, B, shouldn't, Point Roberts and Diablo be listed in there? As well as New Halem?
Good point.
Yes, it should.
Good. Good eye.
Um, Lammerts.
And then, two similar things, if you go to the chart.
Mhm.
Under Diablo, shouldn't that be 2,500 in that first category? Cause isn't everybody getting a minimum of 2,500 now?
Here. It's 2,500 if the use did not exist before, which is why like this is blank and then the red is 2,500, so. Do you know, yeah, I need to look into. Yeah, the asterisk.
The asterisk is for the ones that fall under that,
That's what I thought.
not the GMA, or the one that's aren't by a UGA.
It's located at least 10 miles from an existing.
And
road area.
that one gave them the 10,000 square feet under the public community, but I thought that this code was making, if there wasn't the use,
It's 2,500, and if there was, then it's 5,000.
oh, then maybe it should go to 5,000?
Then I think it should be 5,000.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, because if it wasn't there, it's the smaller one, and if
But
it
if-
was there, it's the larger one.
even if it wasn't over 2,500, if it was just there, it goes up to 5,000. So,
That should be corrected.
but everything gets a minimum of 2,500.
Yeah, this totally was.
So the potential would be, it's the current would stay at the 515, the potential would go up to 5,000.
One is the per building, and one is the per lot.
Oh,
So it'd be 5,000 per building, like the other ones you see.
okay.
Good catch.
My only other question is, it doesn't seem like all the landlords are listed here.
Some went to the second page.
Yeah, and,
Which ones do you think are missing?
well, I know there's the Van Zant one and the Welcome one specifically aren't there. I don't know if there's other ones. I didn't check the whole map. Those are just two I know that aren't there.
You said Van Zant
Van
and.
Zant and Welcome. But I think it may be good just to check if there's any other ones, because I don't know all of them.
We can start to look up the code section.
No, that Lummi Island,
I think one is there.
or Lummi Peninsula, but I'm not. Gooseberry Peninsula, that's not Lummi, that's not Lummi Island, is it?
No,
Island
Lum,
is a
Oh.
Lambert.
Vincent isn't the one we do there,
Van Zant is not a Lambert.
there's
but it may be called something else.
Right.
there's one property that's in Van Zant that's a Lammer.
Wow.
Everybody's to our way.
It is. Yeah, definitely. Sorry.
It's frustrating.
What is that now?
It's just vacant.
So this is not wanna work out here.
Oh, yeah, well, I just saw Liza Island and maybe that's something to.
100 is the table. You're done. Peninsula.
They're up on that map over there.
Mm-hmm. There are some. Sometimes they fall underneath this section here where it says, because Lammerts are designated as rural communities under the comp plan. So the comp plan designation is rural community. And so it says, within areas designated rural communities. Makes income.
It's a rural community, but it's not necessarily.
All right, 30 minutes of last time.
We've got, right here.
That's neighborhood commercial.
Okay. Okay. Then you got that one there.
That's neighborhood commercial.
So they're not actually Lammerts?
I think they're some neighborhood commercial.
Okay.
It'd have to be rural community.
So what, so Lemon's an overlay on top of it? On top of it?
It's a Lamerwood local area of more intensive rural development.
Another area of more intensive.
It's more like a special
It's ring
district.
around a
Yeah.
area.
But which rule applies, the underlying zoning or the land, which trump?
The underlying zoning applies and the Lamrid limits the zoning code. So for example, you could have auto repair and the STC, but in that LAMRID, it's not allowed because it didn't exist on the date per the code.
So there's like 3 layers there. It's
Yeah.
like
It's like,
Lammard,
Yeah.
comp plan designation, zoning.
Yeah, and I feel like I saw it on the Lambert list before, so when we were going over maps one time, but I'll hold off on that. I'll look into it more.
And like I said, we do have an opportunity at our May 14th meeting to correct it.
Does anybody else have anything on Exhibit E? Okay, if no one does, we can go on to Exhibit F, which is essential public facility. Does anyone have on anything on F? Dan?
Yeah, more of a general question. Do we need to take a vote to sort of approve these exhibits individually, or are we gonna approve the whole thing afterwards?
I was gonna just approve the whole, or I was thinking we would have a vote on approving all of them at the end unless somebody specifically requested to pull one out.
So approve all the ones except for the first 2 that I think one we punted and one we approved already with an amendment, correct?
Exhibit A is the only one we've chosen to hold over so far, but we haven't made it through all of the exhibits yet.
Okay, the amendments we made regarding the definition of family, was that in Exhibit A or B?
B.
That was in B, and so that was an amendment to that exhibit, but we haven't voted to approve the whole exhibit yet.
Oh, okay,
That
sorry, I
one
misunderstood
was
that.
unique because that was literally the only thing in there, but the other ones we've made tweaks to, and then we can vote on the whole exhibit. Dan?
I probably wouldn't approve the findings of fact at this point, just because that's tied in a lot of Exhibit A. So I guess we're voting on the whole thing. We might want to exclude the findings of fact as well. But we don't get ahead of ourselves here.
When we get to the end, you can make that motion however you want. So Exhibit F, does anybody have anything on that one, or else we can move on? Right a second.
These straight out of the RCW. So there's no modification at all.
Are you still reading there? Well, we can circle back to it if you see something. Let's move on to Exhibit G. Well, Fred's looking at that.
My problem is, what I have on my attachment is largely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rather than exhibits, so I'm not,
Well, that's why it is confusing because they were numbered in the staff memo and then it's the actual code switched to the exhibits.
and that's a later,
So no, they were all in there. So Exhibit F was 6.
Yeah, I can match that part, it's just the wording is different, it's more expensive when you look at it per exhibit. And more,
Right, yeah. These were summaries.
yeah.
So Exhibit G is the Cherry Point Heavy Pack Industrial Buffer Amendment. And there's a slight change from our original packet to the So that was what the original packet was, right?
I think there should be the updated one.
Get there now. Perfect.
My original
Or
packet
did
had the
not.
shall and the be, and then this that got sent later, I thought had those removed.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Lucas?
Yeah, I was just gonna clarify exactly what you said. The original ones, and I apologize for the error. The original ones had the shall and the be, but and the comma, but those are all removed in your the most recent exhibit that you received.
And what did that change do functionally?
Nothing. It was just that we inadvertently used an edited it a little bit and didn't talk to BP about it. So we just wanted to keep the original language that us and BP agreed upon and not go through the process of agreeing on it again. So the language that was inserted changes nothing functionally.
Anyone represented from BP want to comment if you guys are okay with what the revised language we received was?
Yeah, Amy Tavera with ERM, yes, correct. The version without the shall and the be is what was agreed on.
Okay. Is there any other comments on that, Rudd?
There is.
Sorry, are we on F or G?
Well, let's do G, but we can circle back to F if you want.
Questions?
I'm just.
Did you have anything on G?
Particularly interested in that.
Yeah.
Just a question is, to make sure I'm understanding this, this is requiring a greater buffer, and then they're gonna be converting some of the area they might otherwise have operations on into the buffer. It didn't say what the previous buffer was. That was a
I think that what it's doing is, it's allowing them to locate the buffer on an adjacent property.
Oh.
That's not in that's not in that zoning, because we're changing the zoning of the property that they were using as their buffer. Is that correct?
Yeah, kind of. So, that area at the very north there is being de-designated. And because of that, the way the code is written, that buffer, like where the new line is, it would extend into their actual plant area. So we don't want that. That doesn't make sense. So that's why this language is, I meant to say, which are west of Sefton Road, and then this other provision here. And Lucas is here who can speak to it as well. But it's creating an exemption. It's not creating a new buffer or a larger buffer, that kind of thing. It's just to make sure that new buffer line doesn't go into their plant area.
Lucas, do you have anything to add on that?
No, that was great, Maddie. Thank you. It's just, yeah, it's the language we agreed upon. It's due to that the area, the HII that is entirely encumbered with wetlands and conservation easements. It's coming out of the HII, in which you'll see at the next meeting.
Is it HII or is it LII?
HII and going to rural.
Rural.
I thought it was LII.
Oh, is it LII?
Yeah, it's coming out of light impact industrial and it's going to R10. It's going to rural
That's
from
right.
light
Sorry.
impact industrial, north
That's right.
of Grandview.
Right, it's on a zoning break, so. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe this will help. So, yeah, so the existing zoning north of Grandview Road is light impact industrial. The proposed zoning map amendment in concert with the comp plan amendment to take it out of the UGA would change it to rural. Right now, as it is, because the refinery is heavy impact industrial, butts up against the light impact industrial, there's no buffer requirement. As soon as that that industrial goes away, then the buffer requirement kicks in and would extend onto the refinery. So this code amendment would just maintain the status quo. And the additional section that's added to that allows you the offsite buffer, they've already got approximately half mile to the north. and permanently protected wetland mitigation areas, restoration areas.
Should be at the
So
very bottom.
this essentially takes place of that buffer, even if it had been affected or required,
And then
it's still protected, there'll be a buffer to the community.
Maps.
But it will, also require BP
And
to
then-
put something, file something that says that's acting as the buffer, right? Isn't that what this 555 says?
Well, each one of those areas is already permanently restricted from future development. Now, it's not specifically a buffer
Right.
restriction, but it definitely serves, and they're restricted to perpetuity.
Yeah, well, they're a conservation easement, I thought,
Restricted covenants, yeah.
but this says that the required buffers may be provided offsite by written agreement in the form of a deed restriction on the offsite parcel that runs with the land. Shall be filed with the county auditor.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, so they're restricted covenants that are recorded with the county auditor's office, so they're not specifically a buffer agreement, but they are restricted covenants that preclude future development. Yeah, so that whole light impact industrial area that's gonna be rezoned, it's all already subject to those recorded.
Almost, when I read this, it sounds like you almost have to do a second one that says that it's not just the conservation easement, it's also the buffer, but maybe I'm not understanding that.
And we could certainly talk to PDS if we need to close the loop on that, sure.
Does anyone from staff agree or
Yeah.
disagree with that?
So what Amy said is right. All that LII that's proposed to go to R10A already has restrictive covenants on it. It functions as a buffer. So there's no other, it's already recorded with the auditor. No additional work needs to be done by anyone.
They won't have to record something that says that it's the specific buffer for that lower property
No.
or the lower zone. Okay, Brett, did you have some?
So the existing requirement is a buffer of 660 feet from the heavy impact industrial zone, reduced to 250 feet if at least 50 feet is planted. So that's the current buffer really effectively is 250 feet, and the language proposed is exactly the language in the light industrial area. So, which actually I think addresses my earlier comment.
You have something else?
I was just gonna say, but my apologies. Number 5 is very specific to Cherry Point, so I don't think we can even get there to use number 2 that Mr. Brown just read, because in no case shall set back from the northern and western boundaries of Cherry Point industrial area.
Well, I'm just telling you what the current code is. I'm not proposing we stick with it. I'm just telling you what the current code says.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah.
Does anyone have anything else on this one? Yeah, Jim?
I'm just curious about the light industrial area and the need we have for light industrial area. Is that start out as a bad place to put it because there's too many wetlands? If not, if it would have been feasible for light industrial, what provisions, this isn't a question for you guys, but it's for you guys, what provisions have we made to increase our light industrial zoning in other parts of the county to accommodate that need?
Zero.
I think Mark can speak that we do have a
So,
study.
yeah. So Jim, that LII area, as I mentioned previously, is 100% covered in conservation easements. It's BP's advanced mitigation site and has been for years. I don't know why it was ever zoned LII. That happened a long time ago, but it's never been counted in the inventory of industrial lands because it doesn't have any development potential. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
If nobody has anything on exhibit G, did you want to go back to F, Rudd?
Yeah. So there's a lot of areas in where we define that the outpatient substance use disorder clinic now cannot be located next to this whole string of things.
Mhm.
And is that a state RCW requirement?
That is something that we noticed that was already required in the comp plan and was never reflected in code. So that should have always been in code, so we're correcting that.
Okay, but you're putting it in there because it's in the comp plan, or you're putting it in there because it's the RCW?
putting it in there because it's in the comp plan.
Okay. So I will speak vehemently against this. And the reason being is because a lot of these facilities, and I'll give you an example of being familiar with an Oxford House. Okay, so an Oxford House, back in the 70s, there was a US congressional staffer who was an alcoholic, and when he came out of treatment, he tried to find a place to live. And he could not find, no one would take him, he couldn't find anywhere to live. Fast forward, there are now over 600 Oxford houses in the United States, I think alone, and they are shared accommodation for people who are unrelated, who live typically to a bedroom, and it's transitional housing for people who have come out of some sort of substance program or recognize, but they either may have gone into treatment or they may have been self-treated. And they live in these houses, and one of the conditions is you have to have been sober for 30 days or more, and you must continue to be sober, otherwise you're kicked out, right? But they would classify, I believe they would classify as a substance use disorder, or could classify as a substance use disorder treatment. They tend to be exceptionally good neighbours, and yet I'm concerned that they would effectively be prohibited from large areas of the county simply because of a school bus stop.
Yeah, and just to speak to that, this is specifically for substance use disorder treatment facilities that provide crisis care. You can see this one says substance use disorder treatment facilities that provide residential treatment. So it's for just those facilities that provide crisis care and not for all of them. So it's this higher impact of crisis care. And that's what's in the comp plan. I definitely get what you're saying. We could look at it.
Like detox.
Yeah, I mean, my question is what is the crisis that we're trying to solve by restricting a large section of the county where these facilities can be located?
That's something we could definitely look at if it's still required in the RCW, where that came from, if it's still appropriate.
I mean, I know the code, there's a couple of sections in the RCWs. And they relate to, and this section in here talks about it, it's updated, where you don't want people who cannot be moved quickly near an area that is hazardous, like a pipeline. And I get that makes sense. But there's been a lot of pressure in different areas to prevent all manner of treatment facilities. And the one that really got me a couple of years ago was there was a place out in Eastern Washington that dealt with young girls who'd been sexually trafficked. Yeah. And they had a facility, it was run church facility, they had a facility, and they were getting more girls than they could hold in the facility. And they tried to locate a second facility nearby, and the public outcry about they didn't want that type of person in the neighborhood.
Selena, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I agree with many of Rudd's concerns. I suppose I'm wondering, it seems like a pretty expansive list. Do you have any sort of idea of how much of the county would be off limits to these facilities, given all these restrictions?
I would say it's a lot. And by the way, this list looks like the same list of exclusions that we use for sex offenders. Right?
We could pull up the comp plan section that talks about it, but we're happy to read
It's
it.
completely inappropriate to put the two groups in the same category.
Well, this is what's in the comp plan now. So if we want to amend it,
Yeah.
that is something we're totally amenable to.
So
And I think if you're gonna bring something back to us or look at anything, I think if we knew kind of the qualifier there is the crisis care. So the one above it, the 191 doesn't have any of those restrictions, and the 193 has all those restrictions. So and the difference between those two is crisis care. So I think that would be important to know what falls under the crisis care.
Yeah, we could coordinate with health too. So they're the ones that typically regulate these type of uses and say what really is the difference functionally.
Yeah, some of the limitation, like the publicly dedicated trail limitation, strikes me as quite unreasonable. I mean, most of them do, but that one especially.
Well, the rural area, or every rural area that can have housing has school bus stops. Right? So, but I mean, just what I've said, everything.
Any other comments on this one?
Well, my motion is to, well, you're gonna come back, but my motion would be to strike.
Let me,
All those.
Craig found the
all those
actual
includes.
definition in the code we could talk about just for background, if you would like.
Dan, do you have anything while they're pulling that code up?
Yeah, I was just going to speak in favor of keeping a number of these restrictions. I've got a couple of kids, and generally, people who, okay, first I would say like folks who have been using or are trying to get off of drugs are definitely different classification than sex offenders, and I understand that, so I don't think she would say list. But also, folks who were using or are currently using or trying to get off using drugs, I feel like there should be a little bit of a space, a little breathing space between them and like a public school or a daycare or place where like kids are. I don't know if this is the right list for that one, but I wouldn't support just like wiping this list clean. I would support saying maybe let's look at these things. Yeah, do we need to ban people from trails like libraries? Like there's a lot of folks who are potentially using or have used drugs who are in libraries currently, use them as like kind of day shelters. So anyways, I'd be interested in seeing a modified list, but I would support just saying remove this entirely.
Nick, did you have something?
Yeah, and maybe I missed the context in here briefly, but we're adding all of these these distance limits that didn't exist before. Was there a problem we're trying to solve? And I totally just may have just blanked on it.
So we have to add these new categories, the use disorder treatment, and I guess supposedly we were supposed to have these are there, and we just
It's
didn't.
in the comp plan now that those uses require these locational criteria, and it's not in code. So it would require a comp plan amendment and then a code amendment.
Got it. So code currently does not have distance restrictions at all.
No, but the comp plan says we should have had it in code.
Okay,
So
I think
to align the comp plan with our code because they're most meant to be internally consistent.
yeah, I think that was where I was part of my confusion. I would my initial gut is I would oppose all of these. I certainly would not support any unless I could see maps of what actually is still left. I remember doing this in a different jurisdiction, and we made planning actually map the circles, and there was nothing. They literally made it like so you couldn't put them anywhere, which was effectively a full ban. So unless I can see GIS maps of how this actually operationally works, I'm a no on all of this.
Selena?
Yeah, I share Nick's and Rudd's concerns. Two questions. First off, on the crisis, specifically with the crisis definition, my thinking would be that would be some kind of inpatient facility, most likely. So I don't necessarily see how concerns around like safety to the public apply because it's a fairly controlled setting. The second question I would just have is, was that a recent comprehensive plan amendment, or has that been in our comp plan for?
No, it's been in our comp plan. This is not new.
Okay.
And we're happy to reach out to health to actually get a health representative and talk about the details about how these facilities function and yeah, like you're talking about.
Yeah. No, I would like Nick and Rudd also not be willing to vote to approve this today.
Rudd?
So an outpatient substance use disorder treatment facility would be a sober living house. Right, so it actually, I believe, would quite include someone who is stabilized, is trying to get their life back together. And their only crime is that they are an alcoholic in recovery or a drug addict in recovery. Right, it's not a It's not a constrained, it's not a lockdown center. Right, so, I mean, all due respect to what's in the comp plan, it shouldn't be there because it's just bad policy. And you've got where's the Lake Whatcom Treatment Center? That's one of the big alcohol.
South of Whatcom High School, so I can't remember.
No, there's one out Sutton Valley. I mean, there's facilities all over the place.
Yeah.
The sober living houses.
Yeah, we did pull up the definition of crisis care facilities, so.
Jim?
Yeah, damn it, I'm agreeing with Rudd again.
It's something.
This does totally seem like a place that, a list where don't want child molesters. And I think it's a slur on people who have what is often considered to be a disease that is seeking treatment. And if they escape from treatment, they go downtown and hang out by Little Cheerful and their buds or whatever. It wasn't like they're gonna go running over to a daycare facility and panhandle the kids for money or something. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it sounds like there's some consensus about pulling this out. We'd be happy to bring this back.
Yeah, I think, seems like we should hear from health. I think them talking about the kind of giving us examples of these two different types of facilities, the ones that are tied to crisis care and the ones that aren't. And also we can get some kind of, I like the idea of a map that's showing overlays these two different types of ones and what areas they actually would be feasible. I know that hearing that probably makes staff think, okay, that's a lot of work, but
we'll figure it out.
To be able to evaluate it, that is really the best way to
GIS is
evaluate.
fun.
Eileen?
So did you wanna keep your motion or do you wanna?
On my motion, and I just before I do make this, the thing, I think we're also misunderstanding why this language was in here in the first place. Why don't you want a crisis care facility in Point Roberts? Because it's a bitch to get someone to a hospital if something goes wrong. It's not about the fact that they're a danger to the community around them. It's just really hard to transport them. Same with rural forestry, right? Because those prohibitions don't exist in the code when you're closer into the city. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a substance abuse facility. In fact, a lot of the substance abuse facilities, and particularly for young people, are in rural areas because it's quieter and they're away from the temptation of going down to the corner store and getting the spice stuff that's not even regulated, right? So most of the successful programs around the nation are in rural areas. So my motion is to strike any amendment to in chapter F that has restrictions on where they can be located.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Selena?
So to my understanding, this seems like a deeper lying issue where we might have to take a look at the comp plan as well as getting more information from the Department of Health. If we were to strike today, would that mean we hear it again in the future with more information, or would that mean that we're essentially making a recommendation to not move forward with any of this language at all?
If we strike it now, then it would modify the exhibit in front of us, and then we could decide to hold that modified one over till next time, or we could vote to move it along. So it would still be in front of us tonight, and we would decide what to do with the exhibit. It would just be a modified exhibit.
Okay, I'm personally in favor of moving it along in its current form and hearing it again in 2 weeks and making any modifications then with more information.
But I would leave the language in. Is that your
Unless
intent?
you pulled the exhibit, because we're pulling A as well.
Correct. No, we have that option, but right now we have a motion on the table to modify it rather than hold it over. Dan?
Yeah, I would speak against the motion, just because I think sounds like we need more information about, like, one, everything is restricted. Are we essentially saying we're banning this use for the entire county? And then 2, is this list going to be modified? Do we really need all these things in here? Or 3, is it that we shouldn't have any restrictions on where these things should be located anyways? And because I feel that that's more of a conversation to have, then I would be supportive of holding it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have enough information now to really make an educated vote on anything, so I would rather hold it personally, but I think we need to vote on the motion that's on the table. Selena?
I just want to say for clarification that in 2 weeks or whenever we, if we were to pull it today and then hear it again in a few weeks, I would almost certainly vote in favor of striking all of these, but I don't want to make that call before having all the information. So yeah, that's it.
Eileen?
So what can be done is if this passes, you can also make a motion to bring it back in 2 weeks, because otherwise, once it's done, you cannot vote on it again. Meaning if you already voted to strike this, it's like.
But we could, because we'd have new information, correct?
Right, so.
If we hold it till next time and we get a lot more information, can't we then revisit it?
You have to state it. Just like you did Exhibit A, move to hold off on Exhibit F until we get more information from.
No, I know, but I thought that we could re-vote on things that have been voted on if there's material new evidence. We've done that before.
But because this is a code amendment, per RCW and Robert's rules, you need to state it tonight. That was one of the reasons why we couldn't bring back one of Commissioner Hansen's points during the comp plan, is because it wasn't stated to revisit it at a later date.
Well, we still might do that after the vote, right?
Right, you can't I'm just wanna let you know, please state that. Like if you wanna bring it back.
Chairman, I think I may be wrong, but as I understand, if somebody who votes for it can ask for it to be reconsidered, but people voted against it can't. So if someone wanted it to be reconsidered at a later date, they might want to artificially vote for it.
Yes, but they still should say, I would like to have it on the table for reconsideration.
Dan then Rudd.
I'm just saying, like, make sure you state that.
Dan?
So yeah, thanks. If I'm clear, it sounds like Eileen, what you're saying is if we vote on this thing, yes or no, then we're kind of stuck unless we do some little acrobatics next time. But I think that if we vote no on the motions on the table and then immediately turn around and vote to hold it for a couple of weeks, then that would work. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so I'll be voting no on this, then I'll be voting yes on the motion to hold.
So 2 things. Procedurally, the motion to reconsider, as I understand it, can be done by a member of the side that won the vote.
Yeah,
Right, which could be for the yes side or the no side.
yeah,
That's
right. Yeah.
right. It's just who is on the winning side. Having said that, I also can count the room. I don't have the votes for my motion, so I withdraw my motion. So we don't even have to consider it. On the assumption we're holding it for voting for my motion to hold it for 2 weeks.
Okay. And I agree with that. I don't know if I can guarantee it. People vote against holding it, but I think people are gonna hold it.
No, I know, I understand that, but I'm gonna change my vote.
Okay. Nick?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if we're gonna dig deep into Robert's rules, reconsideration is a same meeting motion. You don't reconsider across meetings. You would move to rescind prior action, and that can be made by anybody. So the reconsideration rules don't chain across meetings. It's for the meeting you're in. The winning side can reconsider because someone says, "Oh wow, we didn't realize this," and it can be brought back up. If it's a future meeting, you just re-agendize it, or you bring up a motion to rescind.
Either way, the motion was withdrawn. So we're back at Exhibit F. Does anyone else want to make a motion?
So I make a motion to hold 2 weeks.
Okay, we got a motion to hold.
Second.
And a second, Maddie?
To May 14th meeting. The next meeting is on zoning map amendments.
May 14th is fine. I'll make a motion to hold for May 14th.
Okay, Celine, are you okay with that?
Yeah, still second. Should give you staff some time to make that map.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Okay, the motion is to hold this item over till May 14th. Darlene, can you call the roll?
Yes. Barry,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
No Block,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Hanson,
Abstain.
Wasseri,
Yes.
that passes.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the last exhibit, which is H, and is solid waste planning code amendments number 8.
Sorry.
Can you explain what spurred this?
Yeah, I can. So we are in compliance with the GMA per the approved solid waste plan through health that was approved in late 2025. But Point Roberts doesn't have a composting facility. They have a what is essentially a container that they ship offsite and bring back to the mainland. And it's been identified that there is a possibility of putting a composting site on that location. And all this change would do is just allow commercial composting on that site or in that area, but that's probably the only site where it would be available. So it just functionally allows it in the Point Roberts Special District overlay to be looked into later.
How come the commercial mushroom substrate production's specifically removed?
Yeah.
Why is that?
That is type 4 composting. It's extra noxious, and there's been pushback on that, and it's specific to mushroom farming. So this is more directed at just yard clippings and people's trees. Apparently, there was quite a buildup of that during 2020, and so there's been a lot of complaints. We're just trying to create a better facility for the people in Point Roberts.
Okay, does anybody have any comments on this one? Okay, if no one has any comments on this, then we've gone through everything. We have voted to hold over A and F. Does anybody have any motions on the rest of it? Jim?
I guess I would move that we approve and move forward the rest of it.
So that'd be exhibits B through H excluding F.
A and F.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Anyways, yeah,
B3.
And that includes the amendments made throughout the.
as amended, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, new to Robert's rules.
Oh, no.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I know. Yep. Okay, Dan. Yep.
So yeah, just like I mentioned earlier, so this would exclude the findings of fact.
Well, it wasn't included in the motion, but sometimes those don't get included when they should. But you would like to, I know you, can you explain why you want to exclude those?
Yeah, just it sounds like we're holding over a couple of sections. The findings of fact support kind of all of the changes, and there's some changes that we're not doing. So the findings of fact should probably need to be modified in the future. I'm not against findings of fact. It's just they'll need to be changed. So I wouldn't support approving those now. I would support approving the findings of fact after we approve the other chapters, the other sections.
Yeah, I didn't say findings of fact, so I guess we're good, huh?
I think so.
Yeah. It's right.
Is there any other comments on the motion? If there's not, we call a roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Nova,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes,
Osari,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, so that is the end of our work session on our main topic. Is there any unfinished business? I know we potentially have a new business item. Is there any unfinished business? Seeing none, so it was potentially brought up under for new business to review the docket.
oh,
I don't know that people want to get into that right now or not. We should probably decide if we want to dive into that. I don't know if people had time to review that or not.
yeah.
It's already been approved. So this is, in the past, we used to review this before it went to county council. That didn't happen this time around.
Right.
So this is, I think, a courtesy that we're getting it brought to us now. Dan, do you have a comment?
Yeah, my hope with bringing this up, we're not going to change anything here. I was just hoping that Mark could just kind of walk us through it, give us like 10 seconds on each item, just so we're aware of like, hey, what's the county council looking at over the next year or so?
Selena?
Yeah, just as a newer member, I would actually really appreciate getting a look at the docket and seeing what's coming up.
Mark, can you?
Yeah, so I
quickly-
think, yeah, Eileen sent this to you guys, right? So you have the docket.
Is that a separate email?
It was
Yes.
the later
Okay.
email.
Was the most recent one we received, I think, outside of the meeting updates.
So this is the docket's a GMA requirement. It's essentially a to-do list for PDS as it relates to legislative activities, code amendments, comp plan amendments. It is by no means everything that the department does. It's just a piece of what we do. A lot of things on it are things that are sort of continuous, or we sometimes refer to them as buckets. So when amendments come up, as things do in life, we could get something tomorrow that is an emergency or just comes out of nowhere because of a code change or a legal change or a court case or a legislative change by the state legislature, etc. So we have some of these items are like very generally described as those kinds of buckets, so we don't have to go back and amend the docket specifically to address certain things. We have a big bucket that we can throw things into. But these are things that have come up through advisory committees, things that have come directly from council, things that come from court cases, things have come from GMA compliance requirements, GMA amendments made by the state legislature. Yeah, a whole range of things. Our priorities, and it's like I said, it's a to-do list. Then we prioritize of what we can do in any given year, given the resources that we have, given the workload that we have. So we put together a work plan for the department after the docket is adopted and figure out, okay, what are the priorities? What can we accomplish? What do we have the resources to do? Do we need consultants? Do we need money? Can we do this in-house, et cetera? Those questions all go on in discussions with the department, in the executive's office and the council about those. So that's what they are. I won't go into every single one of them, but a lot of them are just things that, are GMA stuff. The meat processing amendments are being proposed by the Ag Advisory Committee as one example. We've got some cannabis retail facility amendments that were made at the State level for social equity, we've got to amend the code for that. The council is interested in updating the outdoor music festival code. We're going to be, as we've talked about with you guys, reviewing the UGA urban growth area reserves with the cities this year about possibly redefining those, how those work or don't work. Are there ways that we could improve them? So that process will be going on between the staffs of the 7 cities and the county planning department. Well, serving APO clustered lots is an issue that was put on there by a council member. And the surface mine permitting standards was another issue put on there by a council member. The critical areas ordinance update is a state mandate. We have to complete that within 6 months after adoption of the comp plan. So that's a priority for us, a big priority for us that we'll be moving on with. The next one, the code amendments are one of those big buckets I mentioned. Code amendments come from all over and they can come out of the woodwork. We get a phone call tomorrow from somebody who's got a particular problem or an issue, or the code is problematic for, it might be vague, it might be problematic, it might be outdated. There's an issue and then we need to update it. We'll go to that bucket to do that without having to go back and amend the document. Both the Linden School District and the Ferndale School District have requested us to facilitate adoption of impact fees for the unincorporated portions of their districts. So that will be a priority for us since they're a partner agency. PLN 2604, that's the big comp plan implementation update stuff. That's what we're doing right now, actually, with the housing code amendments and others that'll be coming down the pike for you guys, the off-street parking that we talked about tonight. And the following, the public benefit rating system, you guys have raised particular concerns and others have too. This has long been on our want to do list, is to update that public benefit rating system program. We've finally got enough staff in-house that are dedicated to that I wanted to make that a priority for them this year. So Alex Harris and Lauren Templeton are going to be working on that. We're actually going to get an intern from WWU, a grad student who's going to help us do that. So we're going to be looking at other counties' programs, particularly around issues like public access that you guys have raised concerns with, and the council as well. Council docketed wanted us in Public Works to look at updating our phosphorus neutral stormwater code for the Lake Whatcom watershed because of the TMDL. So that is probably going to require a consultant and some technical expertise. So we're going to be working with Public Works to figure out what we need, what kind of a scope of work is, and then we'll go through, counties going through the biennium budget process in quarter 1 and quarter 2 this year. So we'll be looking at asking for some money to do that. Agricultural storage use code amendment was another request from a council member. Would take those through the Ag Advisory Committee first before coming back to you guys. Puget Sound Energy requested code amendment. They've had issues with wanting to increase the capacity of the electricity grid. So we did some amendments this past year for them to update our code, and they've made additional requests to update the code to expand the potential for power plant capacity in the county. There was one proposal, 4656 Bay Road, to expand the Birch Bay UGA. Since we are 9/10 of the way through the comp plan update, we've told that applicant that that ship has kind of sailed for this update, and we can't really look at that until We could look at it as part of the urban reserve conversation I mentioned earlier, but we really can't look at that until we have to do our 5-year implementation progress report on the comp plan update, which still isn't adopted. So that one may probably wait a long time, and we've let the applicant know that. Clean Energy Code amendments were put on by the council a couple of years ago. We updated the wind energy code, but we haven't been able to get to solar, geothermal, and hydrogen yet that the council wanted us to get to. It just hasn't been a priority, or we haven't had the resources to get there yet. And then we've got some older MRL, mineral resource land expansion proposals that we are having our comp plan consultant evaluate, do a countywide assessment of mineral resource land potential expansion areas. So that's kind of been rolled into all of that.
Mark, I got a question on those.
Mhm.
So in past years when we were reviewing this, I think something had gotten brought up. Okay, this stuff looks like it's been sitting there pretty long, some of it, and it was getting closer to this GMA update. And I remember it kind of flipped from we haven't had time to get to it to, well, we'll just look at this when we do the next GMA update because we're closer to it. It seems like we didn't do that either.
Yeah, the consultant wasn't able to get us the analysis that we had asked for in time. So we wanted to have it for the EIS that was published last year for the comp plan alternatives, but they couldn't get that done. So we're having them do a separate analysis, and then we can address these individual ones after that. So some of these, frankly, have timed out over the years. We've asked for additional information from some of these, and they never provided it. We could have eliminated it. We haven't, as a courtesy, we've left them on here because we made a commitment that we wanted to get to that analysis, and it's just taken this long and from a resource standpoint to be able to even begin to address those issues.
Well,
code enforcement amendments have been on there for a while. We've got some new staff that are looking at different procedures. We're talking with the prosecuting attorney's office about options on how to go through enforcement. Those are kind of always evolving. And the last one, there's the ag strategic plan implementation, that's just an ongoing thing that stays on there all the time with the ag advisory committee, making recommendations like they did with the agricultural land assessment, and they did with the policy amendments for Chapter 8 in terms of proposing to require mitigation for ag de-designation when ag lands are de-designated and converted to UGAs. So that's just an implementation step that comes out of that. So that's the to-do list just on the long range side. On the legislative side are part of the long range staff's responsibilities, but there are other things. So now that we've got the docket approved, we'll go back and look at, okay, what can we actually do this year? What do we have the resources for? Do we need consultant money? We'll kind of go through that process. But for us, I will tell you the priorities are state mandates, legal obligations. If we get certainly if we get appealed on the comp plan or development regulations, those things go right to the top of the list for priorities. And we have to hire consultants, we have to hire attorneys, all that takes money, and budget amendments that we have to go to council for. So it's always a kind of a moving target.
Anybody have any questions for Jim?
Well, I guess this is more like comments. One is with the code enforcements, I think it's incumbent upon us to talk to council about providing funding for enforcement, because we could make as many codes as we want, but if they go cheap on the enforcement mechanisms, they're fairly meaningless. And the other comment is on these expansions of mineral lands. It seems like we're maybe missing the boat here, because to talk about these individually, I know we may never get to it, because there are a lot of people out in the county who want to see their mineral lands reduced because of concerns they have about their water and pollution and et cetera. So this should be a broader topic than just specific proposals. If we're
Yeah.
gonna keep-
Lucas?
Yeah, it is a broader topic than specific proposals. All those expansions or that are mentioned in the docket are wrapped into a countywide MRL designation assessment that was looking at the whole thing, and we're getting close to done on that. It's going to go to the Surface Mining Advisory Committee first, and then it'll come to you guys after that.
Yeah, and Jim, that's a good point. That's a good comment. You know, we've got the Ranch Quarry EIS just kicking off up off South Pass Road. That's a major. It's not an expansion. It's an existing MRL, but it's a major mining proposal that has some potentially significant impacts. And neighbors are very concerned. And as you know, mineral expansion is always an issue that gets neighbors' attentions and gets the council's attention when those permits come up. So that's why that countywide process, we said we wanted to look at that and not have these be these individual one-off applications, like Lucas said. So we're having our consultant look at our criteria for mineral expansion and apply that criteria to the existing MRL designations and just look at the surrounding area of those existing MRLs, those adjacent lands, and say, okay, you know, generally, and it's a desktop exercise, right? It's a GIS-based exercise. You know, can you tell us in general terms likelihood or unlikelihood of potential expansion areas meeting the criteria? So hopefully that will give a little better guidance to us and council and you guys on future designations.
Any other questions for Mark? Rudd?
Just on the MRL issue, Mark, and I don't know, we're not discussing it tonight, but I would strongly encourage looking at expanding existing facilities rather than permitting new ones. Including I would encourage, permitting them to expand into adjacent properties. And the reason being is because you dig these really deep holes that have a very large surface area, and the bottom of them is actually quite small. So you want that hole in as big an area as possible, as opposed to 10 little holes spread around the county. So this makes better sense.
Yeah, and actually, Rudd, what we're starting to see are those existing mines sometimes proposing horizontal expansion, right, outward, but we're increasingly seeing those expansions proposing to go vertical, to go deeper. And so that's an interesting, there's less potential impacts on neighbors, but other potential impacts on groundwater impacts and things of that nature that sort of take on a different perspective.
I toured one, I think, I can't remember which one it was, but it's one of the big ones. This is 10 years ago, they were at 150 feet.
Yeah. There's not an insignificant amount of underwater mining going on. They're below the ground table.
And all the machinery had to operate on vegetable oil.
Yeah.
So, petroleum, so.
Yeah. And we're required by GMA to protect those resources for economic purposes, right? They're there for commercial purposes. So the intent is to mine them. And we need those sand and gravel and hard rock for construction purposes. So it's a tough one to manage.
Any other questions?
Not on this, but I'd like to come back to another issue.
Okay, if there's nothing else on the docket. Rudd, you had something?
Yeah, I was really caught off guard with this thing about substance use disorder treatment facility. So I pulled up the exact section in the current comprehensive plan. And so first off, what the comprehensive plan says, and the wording is significant, because the way the proposal is written is not what the wording says. So it says, within unincorporated Whatcom County, substance abuse crisis facilities and mental health crisis facilities will not be located within 600 feet of the following. And what the first part of this says, the facilities that provide crisis care. So you can have a facility that is not a crisis facility, but will periodically provide crisis care.
Yeah.
And now it's restricted.
I don't wanna get too deep into a topic we've already.
No, the reason-
To hold over.
Could you just give me a little bit of license here? Because
Okay.
it's about
It's
providing.
getting late, let's not go too much.
No, but it's providing direction for how the staff to come back in 2 weeks. That's the reason I'm
Okay.
bringing it up. And then the second one, which is outpatient substance use disorder treatment facilities, is not covered by the comprehensive plan at all. There isn't, the language that you've inserted is not in the comprehensive plan at all.
Share. I had the comp plan section pulled up here,
Yeah.
so let me.
So, Maddie, you don't have to do it tonight,
Yeah.
but my point is,
Yeah.
when you go back and look at it, look at the language really carefully. Because I think you've transposed some words and produced a result that is actually not in the comprehensive plan. That's my point.
Well, I think you can look at it, but you're also gonna bring us back to it, so we'll be able to look at it too.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying don't bring it back. I'm just saying, I think that's where the problem lies. Is a little bit more careful reading of the comprehensive plan produces a completely different result. So that's it.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything before we adjourn? If not, then we're adjourned.